Hello, this is Kerry Shamblin with the June 2023 Vedic Astrology forecast. First, a summary from the 9 planets. The Sun will be in Taurus from May 14th through June 15th, and it's great for rooting down into the season of spring, absorbing the nature of the rains and watching the sprouts emerge. Deep connections to the earth element can be made, which may reflect in thoughts about where to be and who to be there with. The Sun moves into Gemini from June 15th to July 16th, shifting the collective and individual focus towards movement, learning, fun, and transactions. For the first time in months, we may feel able to let loose and have a bit of fun. The theme of creating relationships will be prominent during June and July. The moon is on the way to full town as June gets going, with a feeling of being too busy, extra pressure, or overload building up, culminating with the full moon in Scorpio on June 3rd. As the moon begins to wane, find a bit more time to rest and recover. During the second week of June, there may be an odd marriage of taking initiative and resisting change that could feel tiring. The waning moon finally reaches its monthly meeting with the Sun for the new moon in Gemini on June 17th. With the Sun also having moved on, we may be ready to put our feet on the path and get going. Mars spends all of June in the sign of Cancer, putting a fiery, goal-oriented leader, Mars, in a watery, vulnerable, and emotional environment. This can manifest through situations where plans, projects, and procedures may feel as if they're floundering. The trick here is maintaining a masculine, powerful expression even in times and places that require patience, understanding, and a nurturing approach. This is a frustrating challenge and could come through interactions in the home or at work. Mercury rules our constant need for communication, learning, and trading, and as humans trying to make it on planet Earth. We'll see this capacity travel 3 different signs during June, which could feel like we are on a fast track to somewhere. For the first week of June, we could be on the final steps of a launch of some kind, with all of the associated planning and mishaps. From June 7th through the 24th, we may feel both speedy and stationary at once, as we go into deep creative mode. From June 24th onward, it could feel like we're on the road and making things happen. At this stage, be careful to say what you mean and don't get ahead of yourself. Jupiter transits Aries from April 21st, 2023 through April 30th, 2024, for 1 year in Mars's fiery first sign of the zodiac. Jupiter's presence and aspects are considered to be beneficial and positive. Through April 2024, we get this warm, glowing energy in the fire signs, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius, as well as in the sign opposite Aries, Libra. The domains of life that these signs occupy in an individual chart could find some positive growth. In June, Jupiter's benefits may begin to feel a bit more palpable, as the sign of Aries gets less crowded. The challenge with growth and new beginnings through October will be separating the gold from the dross. Like Mars, Venus spends the month of June in the fertile environment of Cancer. Because Venus is associated with the water element and has obvious feminine traits, we can expect Venus to go with the flow more comfortably than Mars, who prefers control and logic to emotional juice. This also brings into play the passionate dynamic that Mars and Venus create when in the same room. In June, we explore the concept of attraction and emotional drama as it begins to grow in the wild, nurturing environment of Cancer. Let the creative power loose in June. We will see what takes root in July when the pair moves to Leo. Saturn will occupy his air sign Aquarius through March of 2025. Saturn's influence can feel weighty and significant, sometimes bringing challenges that urge us to become more resilient, patient, and determined. Saturn presses on Aquarius, but also by proxy can be felt in the signs of Aries, Leo, and Scorpio. With the confusing combination of Jupiter and Rahu, which combines growth and instability in Aries, the steady pressure of Saturn could feel stabilizing at the cost of speed and ease. With July looking active in the sign of Leo, which interacts strongly with Saturn in Aquarius, use June to clean and prepare, letting go of the irrelevant and spent items that won't help you going forward. Saturn begins an annual retrograde cycle on June 17th, which could cause some turbulence as that shift occurs and as a change of pace settles in. The ingenious but unpredictable energy of Rahu continues to ignite the fire signs Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. The nodal axis is made up of Rahu, the head, and Ketu, the tail, and moves in tandem reverse motion, churning our lives. Rahu is in Aries through late October 2023. With Mercury exiting Aries early in June, we may have a slightly easier time during the rest of the month in telling fantasy from reality and truth from fiction. This could help us manage our time and space with more efficiency and success. Don't let your guard down, though. Rahu can cause unexpected glitches in the plans even when you think you're in the clear. Ketu, the silent counterpart of Rahu, will remain in Venus's air sign Libra through late October 2023. The effects of Ketu can feel like obstruction, blindness, or reversal of situations. Ketu has stapled down the sign of Libra for now, but won't have much say with the other planets during June. Ketu's blocking talent will continue, but may begin to feel different toward the end of June, as if the creative solution to the puzzle comes within reach. This is a reflection of Ketu moving from Swati to Chitra Nakshatra at the end of June, helping us to settle into our work. For an in-depth analysis of specific planetary placements, please continue to listen to the full planetary forecast. Venus will travel through Cancer from May 30th through July 7th. Venus moves out of Gemini and into Cancer on May 30th, joining Mars, who continues through Cancer until June 30th. Venus follows Mars into Leo on July 7th and then seems to stall, slowing down her forward motion and beginning a retrograde cycle on July 23rd. With the outer planets set in their signs for now, we may have the opportunity to explore the passionate combination of grace and power that emerges when Venus and Mars conjoin. The outer framework is built by the slower moving planets, Saturn, currently in Aquarius, concerned with the deep work of karmic balance, who is also pushing on Jupiter and Rahu in Aries, attempting to create structure for the chaotic genius of Rahu combined with the fiery desire for growth from Jupiter. This cautious and confusing approach to initiating new paradigms from the ashes of the recent past holds its stance through October, when the nodal axis of Rahu and Ketu will begin to shift signs, clicking us all into a new scene. In the context of this framework, the two planets of passionate male-female human expression have a close interaction during June and July. Venus, the planet that symbolizes the potent creative power of the water element, expresses through the desire for connection with others and with the earth itself. Mars, the planet that represents the force of strength, expresses by creating resourceful and protective environments and is the chief of the fire element. This dynamic water-fire attraction will be one of the main themes in June and July. In June, Venus approaches Mars in Cancer, but not rushing, as we can see down the road that Venus is slowing down for a retrograde station on July 23rd. Cancer is a water sign ruled by the moon. In June, Venus has the upper hand, performing a bit more gracefully in the watery feminine sign of Cancer than Mars, who is debilitated in Cancer, causing the potential for frustration when applying power in the usual ways. In July, the pairing moves to Leo, a fiery masculine sign, which will give Mars the upper hand and will add the compound influences by aspect from Saturn, Jupiter, and Rahu. Mars moves to Leo on June 30th, and Venus follows behind on July 7th. Remember that the zone between Cancer and Leo is one of the Gandanta points in the zodiac, meaning that there will be something that arises around the end of June or beginning of July that feels challenging, a puzzle to solve. An interesting pattern we see for the full moon in Scorpio on June 3rd is a concentration of planets placed in the signs of Venus and Mars. In Mars's signs will be Jupiter, Rahu, Mercury, and the full moon. In Venus's signs will be the Sun and Ketu. At the same time, we have the joining of Venus and Mars in the moon sign of Cancer. It could be that this illumination of a debilitated moon in Parivartan, which is an exchange of signs, with Mars, could be a moment of truth, clarity, and decision-making that puts a strong border between past and future choices and behaviors. With both Mars and Moon in debilitation at this time, we could be shown our deepest vulnerabilities in the face of feeling totally powerless. The beauty of this deep dive is that the Parivartana at the same time produces a cancellation of debility for both planets, pushing them to function at their highest, even in the midst of navigating a potentially deep trough. This is a fantastic moment for seeing things from the other party's perspective, to take a walk in someone else's shoes, and to deepen the sense of compassion for both self and others. This could be a time where new relationships are being explored or existing partnerships are undergoing renovations that require some level of demolition before rebuilding. The moon will be at 20 degrees Scorpio, in the protective and calculating nakshatra of Jesta. That leads us to feel deeply into how our current decisions will affect our long-term well-being. Mercury rules Jesta, while Mars rules Scorpio, lending logic and analysis to a strongly emotional moon. In opposition, the Sun, chief of our self-regard, will be sitting in Venus's earth sign Taurus and in the nakshatra of Rohini, ruled by the moon. The clue here is to place a bit more weight on the side of the collective to create healthy harmony going forward. Mercury transits Taurus from June 7th through June 24th. Mercury moves out of Aries and into Taurus on June 7th, which could feel like a noticeable shift based on how long Mercury has been spending in Aries. The agility and perspective of Mercury could have been helpful in the chaotic and intense current environment of Aries, where Mercury jumped in at the beginning of April. Ruled by Venus, Taurus is a stable sign concerned with good food, family connections, and the desire for comfortable homes and beautiful environments. Mercury moving through this environment can help us organize our homes, businesses, and summer gardens. Mercury's speed is increasing as June passes by. Mercury will follow the Sun into his own sign of Gemini on June 24th, which could see the pace picking up to include more short journeys and quick trips. During this Mercury and Taurus transit, it is a good time to enjoy with loved ones while preparing for a more active stretch in the near future. The Sun moves through Gemini from June 15th through July 16th. Gemini is the agile air sign ruled by Mercury, great for keeping things moving. The sun moves through this zone each year from mid-June through mid-July, moving our focus to the quest for knowledge and information that Gemini represents. This year, due to the current positions of the outer planets, Gemini is particularly free of pressure, yet still has positive support. This could be a nice month in some regards, especially in the arena of life covered by Gemini and personal horoscopes. We could feel drawn to explore educational opportunities or focus on creative writing or multimedia projects during this time. With Gemini free of difficult aspects, indulge in pure, childlike creativity. Saturn takes retrograde motion in Aquarius on June 17th through November 4th. On June 17th, the already slow-moving Saturn appears to come to a full stop, followed by a change in apparent direction, which begins a retrograde cycle that persists through early November. The path of Saturn zigzags over a small sector of the zodiac during any given retrograde cycle, first in forward motion, second in retrograde motion, and third retracing the same region in forward motion. This zone for the 2023 Saturn retrograde phase begins at 14 degrees Aquarius in the second pada of Shatabishak and recedes back to 7 degrees Aquarius in the fourth pada of Dhanishta. During the 4.5 months of the retrograde motion, the predictable influences of Saturn can become a bit wild and difficult to gauge. The slow, steady pressure and difficulty usually indicated by Saturn's transit and aspect could still manifest, but maybe in an opposite, distorted, or unexpected way. The retracing of steps that any planet's retrograde motion will cause is an indication that we may have an opportunity for trying something again, digging deeper into problems to find the solutions. The innovative streak that we find in Aquarius could flare up as we see Saturn in retrograde through the summer and into the autumn. Saturn is considered well placed in Aquarius, his own air sign that is co-ruled by Rahu. Conservative Saturn could yield his traditional approaches during this time, allowing the genius, risk-taking Rahu to assist us on ensuring that we are spending our time and energy wisely and to the most stable end. There's a new moon in Gemini, Mrigashira, on June 17th. Just as Saturn has stationed retrograde, the moon steps up to join the sun at 3 degrees Gemini for the new moon of June 17th. Generally, when the moon reaches this dark point each month, we can feel a bit drained ourselves, so we can plan for a quiet weekend designed for rest and recovery. This new moon comes in the beginning degrees of Gemini, after a very active and intense bout of astrological weather that began to brew in mid-April. With the inner planets moving away from the scene in Aries, we may begin to feel as if it is finally possible to tease apart the knotted threads and resume with our projects and plans. The moon will be in Mercury's sign of Gemini, and more specifically in the nakshatra Mrigashira, ruled by Mars. With Mars currently placed in the moon's sign of Cancer, this new moon could reflect the strange combination of engineering and surrender that is required to navigate some of life's rivers. The resolution to put into practice new methods of communication, interaction, and leadership could be well supported during this mid-month pause. Figure out how to make the most of what you have and learn from the mistakes of the recent past. With Saturn simultaneously beginning a retrograde phase, we may feel a bit more free in making deeply rooted changes that are boosted by creative, innovative ideas. Mercury moves through Gemini from June 24th through July 7th. After a long stay in Aries and a short stay in Taurus, Mercury finally leaps into his own air sign of Gemini, hot on the heels of the Sun, who he catches up to on June 30th, right in the middle of Gemini. By July 7th, Mercury pulls out of Gemini and is cleared of combustion with the Sun by mid-July. For the indications of Mercury, this transit through Gemini that covers the last week in June and the first week in July could help keep us all to move quickly and to make necessary adjustments gracefully. During this stretch, we see the pairing of Venus and Mars move from the Moon's domain of Cancer into the Sun's kingdom of Leo. The Sun and Mercury, holding space in Gemini during this time, could keep us all flexible and ready to adjust as needed. Mars moves through Leo from June 30th through August 18th. We can focus more on Mars for the July forecast, but just a heads up about this hot little setup that we have coming our way in July. Mars plunged into Cancer on May 10th and will be emerging, ready to dry out in Leo on June 30th. This puts Mars in the Sun's sign of Leo for all of July and half of August. Mars is powerful in fiery Leo and will be receiving an intense combination of aspects from the outer planets. Jupiter and Rahu are both in Aries, aspecting the other fire signs, Leo and Sagittarius. This could be quite inflammatory in some ways, especially with the addition of the air element being blown in by Saturn from Aquarius. During the first week in July, all planets will occupy the fire and air signs. It's up to us to find the earth and water to keep the balance. With July lining up to be potentially dramatic, let's use the energy in June to prepare by planning, organizing, resting, and rejuvenating. Thank you for listening to the June 2023 forecast. I'll catch you next month.